I set up Indigo when I was 19, and it took me quite a long time to find my sector, my cause. I became really interested in governance and anti-corruption as being at the root of so many of the other problems we were trying to solve. If you look at a health problem or an education problem, often, and particularly in developing countries, there's a governance problem at the fault of it. So in the UK, I knew a lot of geeks and coders who were using their skills to improve democracy, holding their politicians to account just using web and mobile tools. So I looked around to say, well, could these tools in developing countries have an even greater impact? And I was thrilled to see that everybody else was ahead of me. There were incredible projects going on across the developing world, and in particular in African countries. So I set out to look for those coders, those geniuses, people who would be recognizable to Mark Zuckerberg or Eric Schmidt, who were solving their own community problems with their own technical skills in those countries. It's really important for me to stress that I'm very fortunate to be a donor, but these are not my ideas. When I'm very lucky, I get to enable other people's ideas to become reality. But we believe the best ideas come from people in their own communities finding solutions to their own problems. And these are citizens coming up with new ways to hold their politicians to account, to increase transparency in their governments, in their parliaments, in their local governments. If I can give the seed capital, the startup funds that allows that to really get going, I'm very lucky indeed. For me, I like to think that philanthropy has existed for a long time. Sometimes it seems like there are no new ideas. We still seem to be tackling the same issues. But technology allows us to do new things. It allows us to take one idea in one community, replicate it across the world. Now, you have to respect very different cultures, very different ecosystems, but technology can get you the last mile, which is such a pressing issue for delivery in philanthropy. One of the ways in which philanthropy is very different from government is that it should be our role to take risks. We're not talking about public money, about taxpayers' money. We can experiment in riskier ways. And I learn a lot from the technology community itself. When coders are developing new projects, they assume there will be failure. They try to fail, but fail fast, learn from it and move on. And I'd love to see more of that philosophy in philanthropy itself. I'd like to see the end of the age of deference in philanthropy. We no longer have just vast foundations that are impassable, but actually there's a much more democratic relationship between the donors and the grantees. The best ideas I get are ones from grantees saying, you're doing it wrong, you've ignored this really good idea over here, you need to do it differently. So I challenge all philanthropists at the forum or elsewhere to listen to those voices of dissent and to ask how you could be doing it differently.